Call this meeting of the House Agriculture and Natural Resources Subcommittee to order. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Representative Cochran. Here. Darby. Here. Halford. Here. Hulsey. Here. Hurt. Here. Potts. Here. Reedy. Here. Shaw. Here. Chairman Todd.
Here.
Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Are there any personal orders or announcements? Seeing none, I would like to point out that Seven Islands State Birding Park is the last park to enter the Tennessee State Park system. It's located in Knox County. For much of the 20th century, the park's land was part of a farm operated by the Kelly family, and whose farmhouse is still standing on the property. Preservationists gradually acquired the land and donated it to the Knox County Parks and Recreation Department. The Seven Islands Wildlife Refuge was created and initially managed by the Parks and Recreation Department and the Seven Islands Foundation, and later by the Legacy Parks Foundation. The refuge became Tennessee's 56th state park on July 1st, 2014. It sounds like one I have not been to and definitely need to pay a visit to. We will first have a couple of announcements about some bills that we need to deal with. House Bill 1 has been rolled 1 week, to be recalendared 1 week from now. And then item numbers 4 and 5, House Bill 546, House Bill 562, have both been rolled for 2 weeks. Yes, number 4 and number 5, yes, sir. Anybody know of any others that I'm missing? Okay, if not, then we will begin with item number 2 on our calendar, House Bill 1138 by Representative Grills. Do I have a motion? Motion. I have a motion and a second. Representative Grills, you are recognized on House Bill 1138. Well, he was here. I thought he was sitting right over here. All right, we'll roll Representative Hurt 1 spot, and we'll go to House Bill 1094, item number 3 on your calendar by Representative Griffey. Do I have a motion? I have a motion and a second. Representative Griffey, you are recognized on House Bill 1094.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. There is an amendment that rewrites the bill. It's amendment number 4864.
Yes, sir, we have that. Do I have a motion on the amendment? Motion. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the amendment? Yes, sir. Certainly. Representative Reedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And of course, Representative Griffey, this looks like a very busy bill, if you will, with your intention. Your intent and the intention that this bill needs, and as we discussed yesterday, Mr. Chairman, there's some history that I would like to cover at this point, because it will cover this bill as well as another bill that's on the calendar, and it'll help the committee members to understand this. And when I first got here, there was a 20% increase in hunting and fishing license, and that concerned me. And so I visited with the commissioners. They provided me line by line on their budget why it was necessary. And we discussed that. Then and that's relevant to this bill when we start talking about commissioners, some changes, possible costs that may arise. Then I found out that many times we use TWRA, the hunting and fishing license, as a slush fund where we would take and reduce or give away a hunting and fishing license, and that caused the increase to their budget, which comes back on those of us who like to hunt and fish. So to cover that, we ended up bringing a bill and said at any time that there is this type of action taken on this bill, it will come out of our general fund from the state and not out of their budget. But because of Representative Griffey's bill here, the things that we need to talk about, the things that need to take place, Mr. Chairman, I just would like to move this to a summer study.
Mr. Chairman, point of order. But I was not even allowed to address my amendment.
You're not recognized, sir, just yet. We have a motion and a second for summer study, and I need to confer with legal about the priorities on that. We're going to take a 2-minute recess, and we're going to check with the clerk's office. And so we want to treat everybody fairly, and I want to make sure we get everything in the proper order. We'll recess for a couple of minutes. We're back in session. Appreciate the clerk coming and getting some clarification to us. So right now, where we stand, we have a motion and a second to send this bill to summer study. It is a debatable motion, so I'm going to call on the sponsor to talk about your amendment, explain anything you want to about this, and then we'll have other discussion if necessary. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I've been requesting a roll call vote on this. We don't need a summer study because the amendment makes the bill. All the amendment says is it rewrites it, forget about all this voting stuff, forget about the cost. All it does is says TWRA shall not modify the duck blind drawing system for 1 year. We need some time. It's slow. Put the brakes on this. Let's come back. Let's make sure all the duck hunters are adequately heard. They can contact you all. My duck hunters work. It's kind of hard for them to break off and show up for a TWRA meeting in the middle of the week. So that's all the amendment does. I think we don't need a summer study to decide whether we have a hold off on a change of TWRA policy for 1 year. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Representative. Any discussion, further discussion by the committee members? I certainly see some value in the summer study. I have a concern personally and professionally about authority we have given the commission and then going and taking some piece of that authority back. I still want them to be held accountable for economic impacts in the communities that this decision has made. And so I felt like the idea of a summer study is not something I'm opposed to necessarily. I'm open to the committee's will on this one for sure. Motion's been made, seconded, so we're in proper posture. I just certainly want the committee to consider all the details of this and open, again, for more discussion if necessary. Seeing none, we will now be voting on the motion to send this bill to summer study. All in favor? Well, we'll have a roll call vote. Sorry, that's been requested. We will get that on record. Mr. Clerk, please take the roll.
Representative Cochran. Aye. Representative Darby. Oh. Representative Halford. Aye. Halsey. No. Hurt. Aye. Potts. Reedy. Aye. Shaw. Aye. Chairman Todd.
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, you have 7 ayes and 1 no.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. The motion for summer study passes. This bill goes to summer study. Next on the docket, we have item number 6, House Bill 322 by Representative Hodges. Do I have a motion? We have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a motion. Do I have a second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Oh, I was thinking he was here. Sorry. I saw someone else. All right. Would you withdraw your motion? All right, motion's withdrawn. We will roll this one to the heel of the calendar. It's that time of year where everybody's in lots of places at one time. Item number 7, Representative Clemens. Is he here? There he is. So we have House Bill 595. We have a motion. Did I hear a second? We have a second. Representative Clemens, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. This legislation seeks to do 4 things. First of all, it expands the power of the Department of Agriculture to encourage and assist with and promote the advancement of sustainable food and agriculture and sustainable food and agriculture research, innovation practices, and marketing. It also defines the term sustainable agriculture for purposes of use in the code. It also establishes requires the Commissioner of Agriculture to establish and maintain an office of sustainable agriculture within the department and employ at least 1 sustainable agriculture specialist with a list of duties. And the 4th thing it seeks to do is address rulemaking and require the Commissioner of Agriculture to consider the benefits and advancement of sustainable agriculture. I'm happy to answer any questions about any of those topics and look forward to the discussion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Thank you, sir. Any discussion on the bill? Are you ready to vote on the bill? Okay, we do have a question. Representative Halsey.
Thank you, Representative. Sustainable agriculture, can you give me a definition of that?
Yes, sir. Now, that's a easily debated question, and it's among all sectors, that's a debated question of what that definition can be, should be, or what it should look like. Dating back to the 1990 Farm Bill in Congress, the term was defined, and it's got any number of potential definitions. I define it in this bill in Section 2 on page 4 of the legislation. I know there's a couple of pages of whereas clauses in there that it's easy to get lost in this legislation. I felt those important to kind of give some context because Tennessee has always been a leader in this field. We're internationally recognized for No-Till Field Day in Milan that's every other year, and the advancement of a lot of agricultural practices. Tennessee is world-renowned for cutting-edge research thanks to UTIA, TSU, and other institutions of higher education. So what that definition does is it tries to take into account the Department of Agriculture, the USDA's definition, and the concerns of everyone because it attempts to encompass the ecological with regard to soil health, water scarcity, pollution, and other considerations, economic and social concerns, impacts on humans, animals, and plant health, as well as philosophical concerns. And by that latter point, I mean with regards to philosophical concerns. You know, Tennessee's state seal has agriculture and commerce, and agriculture is on top. And that's because it's an important part of this state, our history and our future. And so philosophically, we want to stay at the cutting edge of sustainable agriculture. And that's why I felt it's important to establish a single office within the Department of Agriculture to kind of create a top to the pyramid of all those doing work in this sector across the state of Tennessee.
Any further questions, Chairman Hosey? Anyone else have a question on the bill? You ready to vote on the bill? Seeing no further questions, we will be voting on House Bill 595. All in favor say aye. All opposed? No. Motion passes. House Bill 595 moves on to full committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Committee.
All right, next item is House Bill 726 by Representative Potts. Do I have a motion? Do I have a motion on House Bill 726? Hearing no motion, we will be moving on to House Bill 726 fails for a lack of a motion. Next item on our calendar is item 9 by Chairman Halford, House Bill 214. Do I have a motion? Motion. Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Second. Item number 9. We have a motion and a second on House Bill 214. Chairman Halford, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 214 is brought to me by Ag Launch Initiative from down in Shelby County. I think probably most of you know of Ag Launch and know their work. But what it does, it creates a 9-member advisory task force of farmers and foresters to lead a strategic planning process and resulting implementation plan to position this state as a leading hub for ag tech and value-added agriculture. The task force will be attached to the Department of Agriculture. It will consist of 6 full-time farmers or foresters and 3 residents involved in ag-related business. Authorizes the task force to create a scope of work and issue a request for proposals for a third-party consulting firm to develop a strategy, statewide strategy for agriculture innovation and entrepreneurship led by the farming community. Authorizes the task force to call an appropriate state agency for regional assistance. Requires the task force to hold at least 3 meetings per year. Requires
the task force to hold public meetings and utilize whatever that word is, means such as webcast to gather feedback on its recommendations, requires the task force to support its findings and recommendations to the General Assembly. Mr. Chairman, I think I just explained the amendment, and the amendment does make the bill.
We do have an amendment, drafting code 4331, that we have a motion and a second on the amendment. Any discussion on the amendment?
Question on the amendment.
Question's been called. If no objection, we'll be voting on amendment number 1, drafting code 4331. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Amendment 1 goes on the bill.
Question on the bill.
We have a question called. Any objection to the question? We'll be voting on House Bill 214 by Chairman Hawford. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes. This moves on to full Ag Committee. Next item is item number 10. We will actually go, I'll bump that one a space too, and we'll hear let me go back a couple of pages and get the right information here. We hear House Bill 322 by Representative Hodges. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
I have a motion and a second. Representative Hodges, you are recognized on House Bill 322.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This has an amendment.
Motion on the amendment.
We have a motion and a second on amendment number 1, drafting code 4965. If you're ready to vote, no objection, we'll be voting on amendment number 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Amendment number 1 goes on the bill, House Bill 322. You're recognized, sir, to speak on the bill as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So what this bill does is it allows veterans right now get a 50% discount to camp in state parks, and this would add lodging to that discount. And the veteran has to be 100% disabled. So that's a very small group, and it's the least I figure we could do for a combat vet that's 100% disabled. So with that, I will be glad to answer any questions.
Okay. Representative Shaw, do you have a question on this one? No, sir, not. Oh, I was thinking you did. So, okay. Any further discussion on this? I know obviously it has a fiscal note that will have to be dealt with by another committee. We'll see no further discussion. If you're ready to vote, without objection, we'll be voting on House Bill, sorry, too many papers here, 322. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. House Bill 322 as amended moves on to full committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Chairman, this one I have a question now.
You're recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I don't know if you can do this. I've never done this before, but I really meant to give Representative Potts a motion on this bill, and I was over here talking, and it slipped by me. I don't know if it's in order to go back or not.
Representative, you can move to reconsider our actions since you were it was unanimous, a decision. So you can move to reconsider our motion, or our action, excuse me, and that would require a second, and then it's debatable.
I'd like to make a motion to reconsider our actions on House Bill 726.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Sir, that motion fails for lack of a second. We are now on House Bill 1138 by Representative Grills. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Never need a vote.
We have a second on House Bill 1138. Representative Grills, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee. Ultimately, what this bill does, it creates a flood resilience fund for the West Tennessee River Basin Authority. This is only affects the West Tennessee area. What I would like to do, if the committee would indulge me, would be to pass this to the full committee and then let the West Tennessee River Basin Authority Director, David Blackwood, come in next week and present to the whole committee, so you don't have to sit through 2 presentations and answer questions. If y'all would indulge me to that, and if the committee, I'm at y'all's will, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have any discussion from the committee on House Bill 1138? Seeing none, without objection, we'll be voting on House Bill 1138 to move it on to full Ag Committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. House Bill 1138 moves on to full Ag Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee, for trusting me.
That brings us to our last item, I believe, on the calendar, House Bill 1384, and I'm going to pass the gavel to Chairman Halford.
We do have a motion and a second on House Bill 1384. Representative Todd, would you like to explain? I'm sorry? I'm told that we do have an amendment. I don't have the number, but.
Yes, sir, we have Amendment Drafting Code 4222.
Motion on the amendment.
I have a motion and a second on the amendment. Would you like to explain the amendment?
Yes, sir. This amendment deletes and replaces the language in the original bill, so it makes the bill. And the primary change that this has is it takes, it puts the ability to make the change to annual licenses with the Wildlife Commission. As it stands, as the bill was written, if we make that change effective a certain date, we will jeopardize a significant portion of federal funding that's drawn down from those license sales. And so by giving the commission the ability to do this, we accomplish the same goal, which is to allow hunters and fishermen to buy an annual license on whatever date they purchase it. So it's good for a full year instead of right now March the 1st being the initial date of a license. And it allows the commission to do that in such a time so that it will not affect the federal funding that they draw down. So that's all the amendment does.
Members, you have heard the explanation of the amendment. We have a motion and a second on the amendment. We'll be voting on the amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Ayes have it. The amendment is on House Bill 1384. We're back on the amendment, back on the bill as amended. Are there questions for the sponsor on the bill as amended? Question's been called. We're voting on House Bill 1384 to go to Ag Full. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Ayes have it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Any other business before the committee today? Seeing none, do I hear a motion to adjourn? We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor say aye. The ayes have it. We are adjourned.